Hey guys, it's Robin, RsIslandCrafts, and welcome to my craft room. This week we are working on these cute little pumpkin zipper pouches. I thought I'd put a little yellow inside to make it look like the eyeballs of a lit pumpkin. And instead of having something black or plain on the back, I decided to go ahead and put this fun little black and orange scene on of it, a witch is flying through the night. But what we're mostly going to talk about today is about these pumpkins. Now to make these pumpkins, I went back to my favorite way of sewing the scraps onto the calculator tape. I'll put up the video up there on the basics of how I did that. And also, if you hang out to the end, I did put a video up on my Instagram stories that I'll pop it to the end of this video so you can see me trimming it up and ripping all the papers off and see how quick and easy it is. It actually took me a total of 4 minutes to trim the pumpkin strips and to peel all the papers off. I wasn't going super fast, but for you guys, I'm going to go ahead and speed it up. If you want to see the shorter version on actual speed, I put that up on my Instagram stories, and my Instagram link is listed down below. I've been seeing these pumpkins pop up a lot on Bonnie Hunter from Quiltville. She's been doing classes this month on how to do a Scrappy string pieced pumpkin block. Seeing her pumpkins gave me the idea that it would be fun to do it the way I enjoy doing with scraps, is to stitch them down onto the calculator paper. I'll also pop up a video for you guys, so if you don't have the calculator paper, there's other ways that you can do the same project without having to worry about having this. But if you already have this and you've been working on any of the projects in the past with me, go ahead and grab your paper out, some orange scraps, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to do this project. So the simple supplies that I used is I had just a little small chunk of black fabric. I had the calculator tape that I put all my orange scraps on so I could turn them into pumpkins. So with the 120-inch strip that I used for my scraps, with just a handful of scraps, I didn't have very many pieces of scrapped orange fabric, so I just grabbed a handful. I went ahead and I had enough to make 3 for this pouch. I had 3 for a second pouch. Number 7 for a small pouch, and I still have 2 more that I can work with for another project. So if you don't have very many scraps, like I said, this was done with a 20-inch strip. You can do this very easily with a shorter strip, maybe something about 7 or 8 inches long. It depends on how wide you use your scraps. I grabbed a zipper that I thought this was a nice autumn color, kind of similar to a pumpkin color. And this is what helped determine my pouch. I had to decide what size zipper I had with my pumpkins and how big my pouch can be. This is one of those sew with me projects where I just kind of make it up as I go, so you're going to see my thought process as we go along. So it's for a project like this, on this type of a video, I always say you should watch the video through with me first before you go ahead and work on your project, so you can see how things progress and what I change along the time. I've also decided that this is going to be a 2-week project. This first week I'm going to show you about taking your pumpkin strips, cutting them up, and putting them onto your fabric here. We're going to discuss zippers, and then come back next week and I'll actually sew the pouch together so you can see how. It's been a while since I've actually sewn a pouch on a video for you guys, so anyone who needs to see how a zipper is sewn in, how I use a longer zipper and I trim it up, and just the basics of making one of these zipper pouches. So sit down, get comfortable, grab something to drink and a little snack, and let's get started. Now, I did get the start of my idea from Bonnie Hunter over on Quiltville. She has some pumpkin blocks that she was doing, some random string blocks for a quilt. I believe she's doing the class right now, so that's why it's been showing up in a lot of different places. I wanted to make sure that I turned the project around and did it to what I like to do and that fit me a little bit more better, so that it wasn't just straight up copying what Bonnie had done. She doesn't actually have, from what I can see, she doesn't actually have a tutorial for the pumpkins, because as I said, she's teaching classes on it right now. She's doing all her different tours where she goes around the world, and since it is October and into the fall and Halloween, she's been teaching it as a class. So I turned it around and I robinized it. I pulled out my calculator strips and I thought, based on the size project I want, do I want the big wide ones or the more of a smaller ones? And because this pouch is already going to be large enough as it is, you saw how big it is in the beginning, that I thought I better go with the smaller strips. That way I'm not trimming down the larger ones and wasting time, paper, and fabric. So I went with these, and this is 2 1/4 inches wide. So I ended up making my pumpkins a 2 1/4 by 2 1/2. When I was cutting them into 2.5-inch chunks, I was thinking that they were 2.5-inch strips, when it's really only 2.25. So while you're going to see all my different measurements and I'm going to walk you through the way I did it, you're really going to be able to change it up and make it your way, and whatever size strips you have. I've shown in the video before, I'll put it up in the iCard, about how you can adjust and use any type of paper you want so that you can have any width strip that you need. So if you want to have them tall, you can always turn them this way. You want to have them short and stout, they can go this way. You can make them long, you can make them any way you want. It's all up to you. And if you don't want to use the calculator strips like this, you can sew your pieces together, or you can just use one fabric. I think these would also be fun if they were more like a crumb block, but they are quite small, so it might be a little bit difficult. You'd really be dealing with small crumbs. But you can just make one chunk of crumb fabric all in the orange colors, or whatever colors you choose. You can make apples out of them if you choose that instead. And then you can just cut out the pieces you want for the size pumpkins that you're going to use. So I was going to put 4 pumpkins across, but I decided 4 would be way too long, because as it is, this is already, I've got this at about 12.25 inches long, and it's 7.25 inches tall. It's what I've basically been starting at. I think I started it at 12.5 by 7.5, but once I got the fusible on and trimmed it all up, this is what I came out with. If you choose to put these into quilt blocks, or just, this would be really fun as one long table runner. You can have just down the center and maybe put some blocks around it, or just leave it like this. I like to show these types of projects where you guys can take them from here and just jump off and make anything else you want. This is the base on how I created this. Now use your creativity to change it up to what's going to work for you. Make them bigger, put them on a tote bag, make pillows. You know, there's just so many things you can do with this project. But we're going to stick with the zipper bag, because I also want to show you how to, I haven't done a zipper bag in a while where I've shown you how to put the zipper in and how to trim the zipper ends if it's too big and stuff like that. So we're going to do this. It's going to be a bit of a video today, and we're going to go all the way through and work it all the way through. If it seems to be a bit too much today, I might just go ahead and do how to get the pumpkins onto here. And then the next video, we'll do how to make the actual zipper pouch. That way, it's not an hour-long tutorial, and we can put it into smaller chunks that are easier to watch, and then come back later when you've made your pumpkins and watch the next part. So I decided that I was going to take a 20-inch strip of my paper, just rolled it off, cut it off just a little bit more than 20 inches so I had some room to spare. And then I cut it in half so I can have half of my pumpkins on the front and half of them on the back, so I can have a 2-sided pouch, or I can put them all only on one side of the pouch and I can make 2 pouches. So I haven't decided that yet. I do kind of like the idea of having 2 separate pouches and making my pumpkins go just a little bit further. That way I can choose to put a fun fabric on the back, another Halloween style or fall, so that it's kind of either way, or I can just have another plain black fabric on the back. We'll see next week what happens there. I really do like the idea of splitting this video into 2. But anyway, I did my strip, and I went through my orange bin, my strips, and I pulled out some of the orange fabrics that I'd had from previous one when we were doing the pumpkins the last couple weeks. And I only needed them to be, you know, the 2.25 inch. I try to kind of go with 2 3/4, 3 inches in length. I don't want to go exactly 2.25 because I want to make sure I can trim it down later. You've seen me trim these before. I also put a video up on my Instagram stories where you can see me trimming the strip and pulling all the paper off the back. I decided I wanted to go ahead and just fuse these down. I was going to make it in a patchwork, but as I got going and I realized I'd have to make these little itty bitty, the stitch and flip corners here, like when you're making a snowball block, and they were getting pretty small, and then I'd have to worry about the stem and all that, and I thought, nope, nope, nope. It's going to be just so much easier just to applique them down. It's going to have the same look that I want, and without all that extra hassle. Plus, you guys don't want to hear the measurements of take a 3/4 inch square and put it on the corner and stitch on the diagonal. Oi, you guys would turn away real quick. I wouldn't even make it through the project. So applique was the way to go. So I cut my strip in half. It was all trimmed up. I took my papers off the back from my calculator roll. But I put my Heat and Bond double-sided adhesive paper on here. So I went ahead and I cut my strip and I put that on there, and I'm going to be ready to take it off and add it onto here. But before I do that, I'm going to, of course, cut it into my pumpkin sizes. Now I'm going to have an extra pumpkin because I did decide to put, well, I'll have 2 extra pumpkins, 1 from each strip. I didn't put 4 on here because they would have been too close together and it would have made the pouch much too long. So I decided to go ahead and just make a separate little coin purse type thing with them. So I can once again put a separate piece of fabric on the back of this, and I can have 4 total projects out of just working on this 1 strip. I think that's pretty good since we're only using little bitty scraps, and most of these are only, look how small they are. This one is only about a 1/2 inch wide, but I use larger pieces so that I could just go ahead and lay it down and trim off. You can use smaller widths, longer widths. I knew since I was having these small little projects at only 2.5 inches that I couldn't use big strips of fabric. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to go ahead and cut off 2.5 inches all the way across. I am not worrying about cutting on that seam and all there, so I do have this little piece. If you want to cut these before you put your heat and bond on the back, then you'll be able to go ahead and take this off. You still can take it off a little bit, but you might have some threads left in there. The first time I did do all individual squares, but then I thought, well, let me just go ahead and do the whole thing, and that would make it a lot quicker. And then I can just cut it into the size squares that I need. I'm not too worried about any little threads that are in here. They're very small. I can always trim them off. Some of them you can pull out with your fingers or with some tweezers. But if you're worried about the threads at all, then go ahead and wait and do the project and trim them out to size your 2.5 inch squares, and then worry about putting on your heat and bond on the back afterwards. Then you won't have to worry about that. But there I go. There's my first little pumpkin. He's a little square, but that's okay. We're going to fix him up pretty soon. So let me just go through and chop all of these off. Since I'm going to machine stitch them down, I'm not going to worry too much if it has a little extra bit of fabric on there from a seam that got cut off on a small piece of fabric. Double check the size on this one just in case, because I did make them a little long. And just a little bit. Now I decided my pumpkins are all going to go up and down instead of side by side, because a pumpkin they have those big bump ridges that go like this, so I thought that'd be better than going sideways, but it can go either way. It's your project. Then I'm going to take one of them first, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut off my corners. I didn't measure anything. I'm just kind of winging through this project. You can take your rotary cutter and cut them, but I just kind of put my scissors, and I thought, well, that looks good. Let me chop that. I didn't want my corners all to match because I thought, well, every pumpkin is different, right? Now I'm going to show you in a second where I didn't want each corner to match on that pumpkin, but I do want them to match other pumpkins, because I found it easier that once I did it once, because it takes a little bit to work your way up to saying, okay, that's good, I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. I like the way that looks. Then I can just use this as a template for my other ones, so I didn't have to worry about cutting off too much, making weird angles. You just do them all at once like this. They all match, they all match. And I put them wrong sides together just so that I could see with the pumpkin fabric on top. It allows me to see the white on the back from that heat and bond. Sorry if you hear any big trucks in the background. It's been relatively quiet all day, but of course as soon as I turn the camera on, that's when they want to start doing some work out there in front of the house. We always have the traffic to contend with out there, but they're pumping out the new sewer lines and stuff that they put in. See, if I put them like this, I might not be able to easily see the one fabric underneath the other, and then the paper on the paper. So if I do wrong sides together, I can just go ahead, chop all them off. Now, if you like to save different things for different art projects and stuff, these have fusible on them. I don't know how easy it would be to pull off, but you can save all those little pieces. I thought there was just a little bit too much for me, so I am going to toss those. Now here's my next batch of pumpkin. Guess I had more than I thought. I thought I had 4 and 4, but I guess I've got 5 this time, so that's bonus. That gives me an extra, another one on top of it. So, decide which of the 3 I would like for my pouch. I like this one, this one, this is another one of those things where you can spend all your day just swapping around and deciding what you want. I think I'm going to go with these 3. I'm going to save these 2 to make other little pouches with. And I'm going to use these on my project. Now with my stems, I decided that I wanted my stems to be about a 1/2 inch long. And I went ahead and I took them and I made it about a 10-inch strip. I was kind of figuring out how long I wanted them. I figured maybe an inch, 1.25 inches for each pumpkin. But after I got my strip, I just cut it in half. I figured half for one project and half for the other. And then again, because I thought I was working with 4, I'll need to make an extra for that random pumpkin. I just cut it in half. And then I cut each bit in half again. Once again, it was much easier to put the heat and bond on the back of one long strip than it would have been to try to put it on all of these individually. That would have been difficult. And I wanted my pumpkin stems to have that little bit of a slant. On this one, I put them all in the same direction, but you can switch them up and move them all around any way you want. Took all 4 of them together. And I just cut that angle. Hold it really tight with your left hand because I am going through 4. You can do them 1 at a time, 2 at a time. Toss my scraps, and now I have the little stems. Now mine are going all in the same direction. If you'd already cut these and you decided, oh, well, maybe I want them to go in a different direction, you could always just flip it around. You can have a full stem on it without any slant on it. You can make it crooked. You can go ahead and cut a new one because we've made them long enough that we can adjust how far they go under, whether we want them to be tall or short, straight or crooked. It's all up to you. You can turn them any way you want and have them like that. Maybe on this one, maybe we'll make them all straight and then just turn them. I do kind of like when everything's all lined up in a row. And they're all identical like that. Maybe we'll do this one with straight. We've got this one that has the slant. It will be a little bit different. I really do like the way the bright oranges showcase against the black like this, especially with that nice bright green. I did have more of a fall, autumn, darker green, similar to like this color here, but I thought that the greens, nice and bright, would look good against the black. I didn't want to just put a brown on there because I was afraid that my brown would not show against the black. I decided for this project that I'm not going to quilt it. I just wanted to have a nice thin pouch. I wanted to have a little bit of sturdiness to it, but I didn't want I didn't want fluffy or anything. I just wanted a regular old zip pouch like you go ahead and pick up at the store and everything like that. Just something quick and easy to put some supplies in. So I got my black fabric. As I said, I cut this one at like 7.5 by 12.5, and then I did use this is the iron on stabilizer. I believe I had my heat of my iron up too high. That's why you can see all these different wrinkles, and that's probably what brought the fabric into a bit of a different shape to it. I do not have any wrinkles on the front. And when you run your hand over it, because I know they're there, I can kind of feel a little bit of something, especially like over in this big piece over here. But it's perfectly fine. It's a fine pouch. It's going to do exactly what I want. Most of these issues are going to be into the seam allowance, and I don't feel those wrinkles at all. You could go ahead and start over and try again and turn the heat of your iron down, but this worked out fine for me. I did decide that I was going to put my pumpkins about, well, I wanted to go 2.5 inches up from the bottom and lay them all along here. So I just found my 2.5 inch-ish mark. I didn't need it to be exact. And I just gave a light press, make a little bit of a pouch like there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay all of my pumpkins down. Right along that line. Just to make sure. Some of them I see, like depending on how it's cut, that sometimes it has a narrower top than the bottom. You don't want the fat part of my pumpkin down at the bottom. Brought my little 2.5 inch up and I just kind of tucked them in there. Since they're all cut at 2.5 inches, they're basically going to disappear. They're all lined up. Kind of eyeballed the ends. They're about 1.5 inches across from there and about 1.25 inches or so in between each pumpkin. Decided, do I like that? Yes, so I'm going to try to remember what that's like. I know I folded my spot up there, about a couple fingers in from each side. Makes it easy there. So now I'm going to take each of these and I'm going to score them with my seam ripper, just because that makes it easier to get that heat and bond off the back. I don't want to fray any of the other pieces of fabric along the edge by sitting here and picking at the edge. Let me whip through this real quick and we'll place them down. And I'll just go back and line them up about right where I thought they were. I can see the little bit of a faint line across from the crease. And if I want to double check, okay, that looks pretty good. Whoop. Now, okay, so we decided with the stems, we're going to go ahead and put them in and have them a little bit on an angle. Then I like them all going in the same direction. I like the center one for some reason, just to be a little bit shorter. I don't know, do you think it makes them more like an orange apple if we have them too much at an angle? So let's just make it woo. Okay, I think I like that as it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it just a holding set with my iron. And then following the directions on the heat and bond, we're just going to go ahead and press these down. You could make these pumpkins as a border around a quilt. That would be fun with them going in all different directions. Or alternate them with other items, like maybe just put them across the top and bottom and put some ghosts along the side, or go pumpkin, ghost, 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 pumpkin, pumpkin, ghost, pumpkin, ghost. You could add these to a sweatshirt along the back of a bottom of a sweatshirt. I don't know if I haven't seen too many of those quilted sweatshirts. Remember several years back, like Sewing with Nancy, she would make those sweatshirts into jackets and stuff. So if you do something like that, that would be fun along the bottom of a denim jacket. Put them on a denim tote bag. I don't know why my iron beeps when I'm still using it, like it's going to shut off because I haven't used it. I think it's confused. So there they are, they're all fused down and they're ready to take over to the next step. Now the next step is, I just took them to my sewing machine and I took black thread and I just did an outline stitch about 1/8 of an inch. I started right here and I just kind of went up and did the diagonals And then when I got to here, I went this way, and then I backstitched and caught the stem so that I come right back down to here, and then I can just keep on going. Finished it off, and then I jumped to the next one. And I did the same thing. I just started at the bottom, because for me, my eye doesn't always go to the bottom. I kind of tend to notice some more areas up here. So if I thought I had that little double of a back stitch back there, it wouldn't be as noticeable. You could also take your free motion foot and do that cartoony, sketchy thing where it's not quite all even, and it's kind of, you know how they have those cartoon sketches when they do the black outlines on things? I didn't do that because this isn't quilted, and I didn't want to take off my foot and put on the free motion foot and switch back and forth all the time. I kind of like the boxy feel of just a straight black outline on them. So this is going to be for my second pouch. I did decide that I'm definitely going to go ahead and just have this pouch as the front. You've probably already seen it at the beginning because I haven't finished the pouch yet. So sometimes when I'm making these tutorials, I start past the beginning introduction. I make the project, and when the project is finished, then I go back and record the introduction. So any of the changes that have been made and I've decided as I go, you've already seen them in the beginning, and I don't know about them yet because I haven't done them yet. But I do like the idea of just having this on the front of the pouch and having some type of a fun Halloween. I think I actually know which fabric I'm going to use for the back. It's a nice orange and black fabric, and I think that'll go really good with this. And then I can turn it into a zipper pouch. But before I get to that point, I need to decide on the zipper. Now I am going a little bit backwards. I know I have some very long zippers. I have some 24-inch zippers in my container, but the size of your zipper is going to determine the size of your pouch. So if you're not going out to purchase a zipper for this project, your pouch size is going to be determined by the length of your zipper. Now I always say I like to have a zipper that is a little bit longer than the project so that I don't have to worry about any of the zipper tabs as I'm sewing. Both of them will be off the end. So let me go grab my zippers and let's see what I have. I have my zippers in my favorite storage containers now. See, very appropriately named zippers. I really am enjoying this type of a storage system with the cheap old Walmart wooden bookcases. I can fit several. I think I can fit probably 42 of these just on the shelves alone without putting them up on the top. So that's quite a bit of storage, and it's easy to separate everything out. So what type of zipper do we want to use for this? We do have orange fabric, and I said I'll probably use an orange and black fabric for the back with green. So, I mean, I could use a purple zipper if I wanted, but when I look at this, now my zipper is not long enough, so that, of course, wouldn't work. I do have this very long green one. Yes, it is way longer than what it's going to be used for, but a lot of these zippers come from either someone has sent them to me. People get zippers from when they go to like estate sales and stuff, and they're like, here's a bag of zippers, Robin. And they could be random sizes. I could just pick this up at the thrift store. A lot of times these are 10 cents, so it doesn't really matter how long the zipper is. I can trim it down and then use any of the extra to go ahead and make some type of fun project. I've seen them make flowers using the zipper ends, you know, the two halves separately. Those are really nice. I can go with a lighter green if I choose. I do have several blacks. This one is one for a jacket, so this is one of the ones I bought when I was making the hoodies. This one's a little bit too wide for a pouch for what I'm making. See, now this one's a perfect size. It has the tabs are just a little bit past on each. This is an autumn color. It's a burnt orange or a brownish color. And I think that one works really good for this size pouch. I think the colors will work okay up there. I would like to have a bright orange, but I don't have anything in that color. I have this peachy orange. See, that's the thing. Do you go lighter in color with your zipper, or do you go darker in color? Which one do you prefer? I can go crazy and just use a white one, but I think that one might be a little bit too shocking on the top. Has anyone ever tried dyeing zippers? Can you dye a zipper? I think that would be interesting to be able to do something like that. I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with this dark one. Maybe I'll put the light one on the second pouch that I'm making, so that kind of highlights what would be the lighter colors in the pumpkins. So that might have been really helpful to have started with the zipper first. But as I said, when I have this container like this of just random size, anything from 5 inches all the way up to, I think I have 32, 40 inches. There's some really, really long ones in here. But I knew I had some that were at least around this size that I can go ahead and pick out. I'm going to go grab the back fabric and I'm going to go ahead and find some lining and I'll show you those, and then next week we'll come back and we'll go ahead and turn this into a pouch. Now for my lining, I went ahead and grabbed this. It's a little bit bright. It's kind of a muted yellow. It's not like a normal like Crayola yellow. It has more of a yellowy orange tone to it. I thought that'd be good. Like the inside of a pumpkin is all lit up with yellow. And I thought one of them I would back with this fun pumpkin fabric. So you have pumpkins on the front and you have pumpkins on the back. But then I also have this fabric. Now, what do you think about that on the back of one of them? Because I thought that would be a nice little Halloween scene going across the back. It's orange and black. It matches with this. The yellow for the inside still. It would be nice for these small pouches too because it fits just about that scene in there. So I thought that would be nice for the back of these. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get these all cut out. Everything's just going to get cut to whatever size your pouch is. All of your backing fabric, I will go ahead and put some of the same fusible, the fusible interfacing I have for the front. I will put that on the back also, so it has the same about stiffness. It's still very flexible. It's going to be a nice flexible pouch. It's not super stiff and overly quilted, but I think that that's all going to work together fine with those. So then you come back next week. You've already seen the pouch at the beginning. I know that because I've already finished it for you. But you come back next week, and on next Friday, I'll show you how to put everything together. We'll talk about putting the zipper in. I'll show you at the sewing machine also how to actually stitch it in. And then I will show you how to trim off any of the excess and how to get your pouch ready to go. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me and working through this project, and we'll finish it up next week. Bye.